Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our New York Islanders franchise mode here in NHL 25. So last episode, if you did not catch it, we had free agency and started up another season, and we were expecting some big things from our team so far this season, but unfortunately so far it has not been the case. We are 8-15-3 at December the 15th, so it's been a bit of a rough start, especially on the offensive side of things. As you can see below me, we're averaging only 2.35 goals for per game, which is dead last in the NHL. Our power play percentage is also not doing too well at 13.6%, which is 21st. However, we're a pretty good penalty kill team as we're top 6 in the league, and we're also a okay defensive team, allowing only 3.04 goals per game. So there has been some stats that I've liked from this team, but aside from that, I didn't expect his team to do as bad as they are so far this year, but I've been impressed with a couple of guys like Crane, for instance. He's been pretty good, 17 points. He's only a -1 compared to a lot of the other guys. I've also been very impressed with Olli Hottinen, who also got a big contract extension in the offseason. He has 17 points in 26 games, so those two guys offensively have been good. Frondell's also been kind of good, but he's only got the 3 goals, so I'm not too impressed with him so far. But obviously the team isn't simulating well, so once it starts simulating well, he should do better. I've been okay with Makinen's production because he's actually plus and he's got 16 points. Bjorkstrand's been not too bad for his second season, but definitely some guys need to be doing better than they are. Like Poitras, for example, only 1 goal so far this season, which is pretty bad considering he's on our top 6. Zykov, who's in our bottom 6, has 8 goals. So definitely Poitras needs to step up the pace a little bit if he can. We also have like Noah Dobson, who's not off to the strongest of starts with only 12 points. And then you can see like our fourth line and stuff like that. Edward Shala has not been that great so far. He wasn't getting any power play time at the beginning of the season, so that might be why. I did put him back on the power play again to see if that will help things out with our offense a bit, but yeah, he's off to a pretty bad start considering last year he had 52 points in 82 games, and we gave him a nice little 2-year contract extension at $4 million. So hopefully he starts to step it up as the season goes on a little bit. But yeah, just in general, haven't been super impressed with the production from this roster, and then also the plus minus on quite a few guys. So hopefully that improves. And then in terms of goaltending, Solovyov actually is having his best season of his career. He's got a .917 save percentage, and then Bjarnason has a .913, surprisingly. So our goaltending has been pretty damn good. It's just a defensive play in front of the goalie that hasn't been that good, I guess, so far. Because Bjarnason hasn't won a single game despite having a .913, and Solovyov has a below 500 record despite having a .917. So hopefully the goaltenders continue doing what they're doing, and then hopefully we can start to find better offense and also better plus-minus results throughout our lineup as the rest of the season goes on. Because we don't really have any plus players other than Makinen and Bjorkstrand, basically. So definitely need to play some stronger defensive hockey and start scoring some more goals. So if we score more goals, then we'll not be as bad in terms of plus minus for sure. But it's going to be taking a lot of work for us to probably find that offense again that we haven't really become a super good offensive team, I guess, in the last few years. Because in general, the Islanders are always, to me, at least more of a defensive first team. So maybe that's why our team's kind of more defensive first right now, even though technically we went through a massive rebuild. But we need to find definitely ways to score more goals. So hopefully if we need to, make some line adjustments, and maybe that could solve our problems and all that type of thing. But anyways, before we simulate maybe the rest of the season in this episode, depends on, I guess, how we simulated all that. Let's see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will get into simulating more and seeing if this team could somehow have a better second half than it has a first half, because that could happen, and maybe we could start to find ourselves back to 500 or above 500, but that might be also a pipe dream for our team. So the first 2 comments are from Big T. The first one says, "Why don't you go for Lekir instead of Bunkolzin? I better fit for you, scoring in the bottom 6." And then he says 6 minutes. I don't even know if he meant to put that 6 minutes, but basically he's just asking, why don't I go for Lekir instead of Bunkolzin? He also says he is not too old in a different comment. So I don't know why I didn't go for Lekir. I think nobody actually told me to go for Lekir when he was in free agency. So that's why I didn't bring in Lekir for our team. If I would have seen him and maybe looked into him more, maybe then I would have went for Lekir, but I'm not even too sure what team he's on. If we go to the player search, let's see if I could find him. I don't even know how to spell his last name. That's the only thing. Let me just put Lek, and that might be able to come up, unless it just does based on that. Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's the Lekir like that. So he's back on Vancouver again. He's an 81 at 28. He's making 3 years at $2 million. How does he even simulate, out of curiosity? So far, he has 11 points in 28 games. He was in Calgary for a bit too, so he's returned to Vancouver after a long time in Calgary. Never played a single game in Vancouver in his university adult this season. But yeah, so far he's been okay offensively. Like, he's definitely doing better than some of the other guys in our bottom six. So that wouldn't be a bad option if we wanted to make a trade at some point. But right now, obviously, I don't think it makes sense for the Canucks, because it looks like the Canucks are probably doing well if he's assimilating well. So maybe at some point we could look into potentially bringing him in for the bottom six, but for right now, I think we'll probably just leave it the way it is. In the last NFL, comments from Sound Otaku says, pretty brutal start. I say let the season play out as is, but Dobson definitely needs to be trade bait next year. And yeah, we could probably do that. We could probably just let him run this team this season, see what happens, because maybe we're just a little bit too early to actually get into our playoff structure. Because obviously we could draft another elite player in this year's draft and then maybe start making the playoffs next year. But I do agree with Noah Dobson probably needing to leave the team via trade. The only thing that's going to be holding us back from that is the fact that he has no movement. We are going to have to ask this guy if he is being willing to be traded. If he's not willing to be traded, then we can't do anything about it. But yeah, right now he has that no movement clause for this year and for next year, so we'd have to get him to waive it so that way we could actually flip him. So it kind of sucks that that has to be the case, but we thought that Noah Dobson would have been a career-long Islander and maybe helped us win a Stanley Cup by now, but he's definitely off to not that great of a start this year. And obviously, he's starting to get replaced by the other defenders like Hotton, for instance, who's been fantastic so far. And then there's a lot of other younger defenders that are also going to want to take that job from Dobson. So might as well trade him away while we have the chance to. So we'll probably end up doing that in a few episodes. So probably at I guess before the draft, we could even ask him if he's willing to waive his no trade clause and then trade him then, or we could wait till next year's trade deadline or something like that. But regardless, Dobson's probably going to get dealt before that contract ends unless he doesn't want to waive his clause, which could be the case. So I think that's pretty much it. I think we're ready to get into simulating more. Obviously, the line adjustments we made in the last episode, like I said, was putting Edward Shala onto the power play because he was not on the power play before this. So now he is on, I believe it is unit number 2. Yeah, he's on unit 2 with Podkolzin and Poitras. Podkolzin and Poitras really haven't done much for us either. Podkolzin's only got 3 points right now. So if he doesn't simulate that well, maybe I should swap the defenders and stuff. Here, you know what? Well, let's rework this power play unit a bit. So I'm going to keep Hotton on this first unit. I am going to probably move Dobson to the second unit, which means we're going to get Cook onto the first line power play just because he's a good goal scorer. He has been scoring goals so far. Then we're going to move Dobson to the second unit here, so that way we have a defenseman at least back there with Bjorkstrand. And I feel like I want to take Podkolzin off this power play just based on how he's played so far, but I don't know who I would throw in. Maybe we could put Lindros or something on this unit. Yeah, you know what? Let's give Lindros a chance on the power play instead. Might as well give our power play a little bit more younger guys on it and see if it produces on a little bit better of a stretch. So a little bit of rework to the power play. Hopefully that gets our offense going and gets guys like Cook going. Like I said, Cook has been good so far, 10 goals in 26 games, but he's obviously not off to a super strong start in terms of points total, but he has been a good goal scorer for us. So giving him more first-line power play, moving Dobson to a second unit, and then giving Houghton his own power play unit, I think that's a good thing. So hopefully that solves their power play problems and also gives us a bit more depth in terms of offense. So let's continue to simulate and see if this team could find itself, because like I said, if we get off to a bad start, we could easily find ourselves in the second half. Sometimes I've seen that with the sim engine before. Sometimes when you start off really good, then you start to come back down to earth a bit. So I do think this team could get closer to 500 as this episode goes on, but I honestly have no idea because right now there's been some underlying problems that I don't really know how to solve. Because I don't feel like we need to make trades at the moment. So let's go to the 31st and see how we do just to wrap up December and see if we're closer to 500 by the end of it. As Crane is fully healthy, which he was already in the lineup, so that's good. We lose to Vegas. We lose to Montreal. See, I don't understand that because this team should be definitely a lot stronger. And we beat Washington, though. We lose to Buffalo. Yeah, at this rate, I don't think this team makes the playoffs unless we completely go on a crazy tear in the second half. 11, 19, and 3. Having 19 losses before the new year is a really bad start. I didn't expect us to be this low in the standings. We're almost probably last place in the entire league at the moment, which is not a great sign. So I don't really know what the problem is other than we're not scoring a lot of goals. Like, we're dead last in offense, but, like, our penalty kill is pretty damn solid. Our goals against is average. Our power play percentage is 25th, which is not the best, but it's not terrible. It's just that goals for per game. 2.27 goals for per game. Like, I thought our offensive core isn't that bad in terms of how it's structured. Like, do we just have too many of the same type of players? I don't really know. And Frondell's apparently losing morale. And that's because of his individual performance. So hopefully he's okay and he jumps back up here soon, because that would not be good considering we just gave him an extension in my last episode as well. I'm trying to think if I want to make any other adjustments here. Let's get Makinen back to that top unit, because Poitras has been still not that good. He has still not been that good, so we might as well demote him. Has Shala gotten going a bit here? Let's see. He's got 1 power play point since being put on that unit, so maybe he's improving a bit, but that third line is pretty damn bad in plus minus. Pokolzin's a minus 16, Lindros a minus 12, him a minus 18. Yikes. Yeah, we definitely might have to make some decisions in the offseason. The fourth line's also been pretty bad in terms of plus minus. Actually, maybe not as bad. Zekov's the worst of the bunch, but he was on the third line before. Let's actually move Lindros down, get Zekov back onto that line, I guess. Let's see, Cook's up to 11 goals. Bjorkstrand's on 18 points. I don't really know what I could do to make this simulate actually even better. There's probably not really much we can do. Well, let's continue to simulate. And wait, was Boyd losing morale because of ice time? Because he's down to a 78, or is everybody just having a little bit of a morale crisis because this team's been so bad? He's actually listed as a top 4. Okay, so that could be actually some morale-related stuff. So we will swap Salmelainen over there. I meant to actually ask Salmelainen if he could play right D this season, but I completely forgot. Let's go Boyd on the top pairing, I guess. And we'll move Pecker back down to the top 6. I honestly don't really know at this point, but we got to find ourselves. This team has been definitely not as good as expected. Like, I think I was predicting this team could be closer to being a playoff team this year, but so far, definitely hasn't been the case. Now, there is still a lot of season left, so maybe we could still come back, but definitely not a strong start to the year, at least. Let's go to the end of January and see if we're maybe closer to 500 by the end of it. Like, maybe a new year, we'll be starting to play well. We win the first, lose the second. What about the third game? We win that one, okay, so that's not too bad. Boyd's already back in, so that's okay. Calgary, let's see what we got here. A loss 2-0. That's not a terrible loss by any stretch. We do beat New Jersey. Anaheim wants Boyd a 4th and a 6th for 2 second rounders. Well, let me edit my trading block because Boyd is... he's not even on the block, so I don't know why they're asking for Boyd, because Boyd's not getting moved. Not yet. We do beat Washington 7-3, so we're off to a better start this year, looks like. As the calendars change, there's back-to-back losses, of course, after I said that, though. And Hottanen has broken his nose, which is not great because he's been one of our better players out till January 31st, but let's just go replace player for the time being. There's a win over Utah, shootout loss to Toronto. Definitely still has been a better start to 2033 than it was in the end of 2032, I think. We do beat Philadelphia in a shootout. Why are we still getting offers for Boyd? Because he's not even on the block. I don't even have him on the block here. We lose 7-6 that game. We lose that game. We lose that game, but that was an overtime in Ottawa as Hottanen is back. Yeah, the team's starting to fall off again, which is not great. Yeah, I don't think we're going to make the playoffs this year, which is kind of ridiculous because I think our roster looks a lot better than the game is actually saying. So we'll take Pratt out. Pratt was actually replacing Hottanen, which is good. So that means Pratt was probably getting some good power play time, which is nice to see. But 17, 25, and 6 at February the 1st. Rough year. Rough year. Too much regulation losses probably at this point. Like we are, what's last playoff spot? 50 points? Yeah, last playoff spot has 50 points in our division. So we're 10 points back. So there is still definitely a chance to make the playoffs. But it obviously will need to take a full-on team effort as we simulate. So let's go to the end of February and see where the team is at that point. But I think we'll probably go through the rest of the season in this episode almost. But it's definitely not been as expected so far. But if we start to heat up, we could still make the playoffs. So there's 2 straight wins, 3 straight wins. Okay. Like I said, I do feel comfortable that this team could have a better second half. But obviously, it's still going to be a long shot to make the playoffs at this rate. if we do lose games back to back, so to speak. Why are we still getting offers for Boyd? He's not even on my block. Why am I getting offers for him? Why? Let me just stop the sim here for a second. 21, 27, and 7, that's pretty solid. We're starting to get closer and closer to 500. Still a long way out, but I do want to see why I'm getting offers for Boyd, because he's not even on my trading block, which makes no sense. Where's the trading block? Oh, there it is. Trading block, let's just get rid of the stuff that's on there. I don't know why we're getting offers for him, but we are. At this point, I don't even want any offers for anybody on our roster. At least at the moment. Just because it's kind of frustrating. Like, why the heck are they wanting Boyd so much, all these teams? Like, I get that Boyd's a good defenseman, but he's not even on the block. So why am I getting offers for him? There you go. Now we should not get any more offers as the rest of the season goes on, which is good. Just because I just don't like the interruption, especially when it's a guy I don't want to move. Alright. I wish you could set people as untouchable. That would be nice. Let's go through these next 4 games and see where we're sitting at that point. But definitely I'd say we've started this year better, but last season was definitely not good. The start of this year was not good. Now we're starting to lose more games again as I'm speaking at. Now we're on a 4-game losing streak. Yep, we already have 30 regulation losses, so there's probably no way this team makes the playoffs considering we already have 30 losses in regulation. 22, 30, and 7. This is not a good start to the year. But there's probably nobody on this team I'd actually move. Somehow Solovyov's still rocking the best year of his career on a 913. So I don't really understand that at all either. Like, we're 5th on the penalty kill now, 12th in goals against. Our power play has improved as well to 19th after making those adjustments. We're averaging only 2.73 goals for per game, though, so we're still dead last in offense. It has been improving a bit, but yeah, we're not scoring enough goals. Like the Dallas Stars, who are playing apparently on the next game, has already scored like a goal more per game than us, and that's a top 5 offensive team. So yeah, I don't really know what the problem is at this point. I just know that we're not scoring enough 5-on-5 or something like that, because the power play being like 19th is not a thing that's going to drag your offense down that much, I don't think. But yeah, so far, not great. I should actually take a look at our lines here for a second, just make sure nobody's losing morale. Let's see. Looks like most people are okay with their ice time. There's nobody that's dropping down. Yeah, everything should be okay here. Boyd's still only a 78, but he is getting more ice time, so maybe he's just a bit hard on himself. And then Solovyov and Bjarnason still looking good. Okay, it looks like everybody's still pretty happy with their ice time. It's just maybe the addition of some of the younger guys, like these 4th line guys, they're like probably listed as depth forwards. So maybe we just don't have enough guys in their actual roles. Because Oland, I believe, yeah, is a depth forward. We have Lindros, who's a minor scoring forward. And same with Kaminsky. And then we have Zhikov, who's a depth forward. So I feel like probably that's our problem right there offensively, as we have too much guys that are actually not NHL caliber. Like, technically, Shawla's a second liner. Crane's like a top 6 guy. Obviously, Frondell's a first liner. Like, we do have a lot of guys that are decent. Like, Cook, I think, is listed maybe as a 3rd line scoring forward. So I think we're still lacking a few elite talent players, and that's why our offense isn't scoring as much. And if we get that growth, obviously it'll help things, but I think that's probably why this team's not simulating as good as we were hoping. So definitely think we're still a little bit away. So I think we're going to continue simulating. Like I said, I think we'll probably simulate till the rest of the season in this episode, but playoffs unlikely. Next year, maybe, depends on really if the growth of the team and all that at the point, and if we pick up somebody really useful in this year's draft. But it's definitely been a year I was not expecting to be this bad, but I think it's definitely to do with the fact that our 4th liners are mostly like minor scoring forwards / depth forwards. If we had actual 4th liners and 3rd liners down there, we'd probably be a lot better. But let's go through these 2 games here, Dallas and Philadelphia. See if we could win either of them. We lose that one 8-3, goddamn, and then we win 4-2 over Philly. So we're really inconsistent with our play, it seems like, too. Let's go to a day after the deadline, because like I said, I don't think there's anybody on this roster I'd move. I don't think so. Let me just take a look at the contract situation first, though. But I don't think I'm going to make any trades. which a lot of you guys probably don't like that I don't make trades sometimes when we aren't going to make the playoffs. But who's expiring this offseason? Poitras, but he probably has not a ton of value. Makinen's an RFA, but Colson is a pending UFA again. Zykov as well, but Zykov's a cap whale. You have a lot of RFAs coming up this offseason, including Eriksson, who might jump to our NHL team next season. But aside from that, a lot of these UFAs are not super valuable. Some of them are cap whales still, like Emil Hemming's making $8 million to not even play a single game with us right now. So I think there's nobody I would trade really on this team. So because I don't think Poitras is going to fetch us that much, to be honest. And I don't really think, I don't think it's needed to move Poitras, really. Bjorkstrand has outgrown Makinen already, which is kind of surprising. Unless it's just statistical, but yeah, I think we're okay. Let me go to in assistant for a second. We have Eriksson, who's up to a 79. He could actually get called up, hypothetically, if I was to trade Poitras this year, but I think we'd be under the cap if I did that. Eriksson's up to a lot of points this year. 57 points in 53 games. Damn, yeah, this kid's doing really good. Plus 18. Yeah, I think it's better to him stay in Bridgeport still longer. Giordano jumped up to a 75. Wow, okay. So Giordano's also getting close. 36 points in his first season in Bridgeport. And then we also obviously have Leahy, who's getting close to the NHL as well. He's on 37 points in 53 games. So a little bit of a sophomore slump for him, but looks like Bridgeport is doing well. So I don't think I want to call anybody up from down there, because I prefer them to go on a run. And what the heck? Leeson was not even close to being NHL ready last year when we looked at him. Now he's up to a 77 at 19. So the former 16th overall medium elite is likely to crack our NHL lineup next season. I could even sign him for the AHL right now, hypothetically, but it is kind of late in the year to sign him. But yeah, for an unsigned guy, he got a lot of growth this year. And then Wallace is getting close too. So we definitely have guys that could come to our NHL team again next season. So I think we'll be better next year. But right now, obviously, let's just keep the course and see how the rest of the season goes. And then see where we're drafting this year and all that, because I don't think this team somehow finds a way to make the playoffs at this rate. Just when you get 30 regulation losses before you get 25 wins, the chances of making the playoffs are pretty slim. So let's just go past the deadline, and we'll take a look at what trades went down around the league just to see if there was any blockbusters. But who's on waivers? Ty Emberson? Yeah, Ty Emberson. That's what I thought it said. 75 at 32, not really super important. We already have our depth defenseman in Pratt. I'm kind of interested to see what Pratt's stats are looking like when we get to the end of the year, because obviously he's been used as a depth defenseman for us. There is a chance he might not be on our team full-time for long, so hopefully he gets good enough production that makes me think otherwise. But let's take a look at what trades went down at the deadline, if there's anything interesting. Goyette going to Tampa Bay. Can't remember his first name. I think it's Daniel. What else we got here? Dmitry Kuzmin to Carolina. Consta Helenius to Vancouver. Joreen Donovan to New Jersey. Juuso Parssinen on his way to Anaheim. Let's see. A lot of generated players. Suzdaliv to Boston. Boston and Winnipeg made multiple trades with each other, I think. That's actually kind of funny, seeing a team do multiple trades. Cole Perfetti on his way to Nashville with Noah Hannafin. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Anything else? Theo Lidstein to Florida. Topi Niemela to Toronto with Jonas Siegenthaler. Simon Holmstrom on his way to Montreal, so our former player. I felt like we could have probably held on to Holmstrom long term, but I guess we didn't decide to do that. Alexei Protas on his way to Calgary. Zane Parekh on his way to Toronto with Corson Kuhlmans. Interesting. Dmitry Voronkov on his way to Philadelphia. Connor Geekie to Columbus from Toronto. And the Cannon guy got dealt from Columbus already, which really sucks, because I was hoping that he would stay in Columbus just based on his name, but unfortunately he gets dealt before he gets to play his first game. Damn. Because that would have been like the ultimate meme. Like him coming out with the cannon going off in Columbus, that would have been pretty cool. Like, I don't even know if it's pronounced Cannon, but I remember there was that one player with that last name, Pat Cannon or whatever, Pat Cannon. But I don't know if it's pronounced like that or not. All right, well, let's continue to simulate the rest of the season, and let's hope that the team maybe continues to lose games but has solid results. I don't really know. because I want to get a good pick in this year's draft, but at the same time, I like seeing our young guys do well. And we win 2 games and then lose 1 to Tampa. Game against Columbus is a 6-0 loss. Columbus again, 3-2 shootout loss. This has been a really weird season still. But I think I kind of understand better of why we're not doing good, just because, like I said, we have too much guys that are kind of a little bit ahead of their roles, and that's probably why we're not doing too good. If we had more people listed in their actual roles, playing in those roles, we would be probably a better team for sure. But yeah, it's definitely not been super good. We've lost a lot of extra frame games, so at least that's okay. But obviously, since Solovyov's going into the last year of his contract next year, I'm hoping that the team can make a push next year. 29, 35, and 11, so we're now 10 points back of the last playoff spot again, but likely the playoffs are a pipe dream at this point. So unless we win every single game and somehow like the Rangers and the Flyers lose all the rest of their games, it's not going to happen. So let's go to the 14th and see how we do here in April. Game against Florida coming on up. All Eastern Conference games to end the season. We win that one 4-2. Frundell's been injured with a bruised arm, so that's going to hurt us a little bit as our top guy goes down, our captain. So let's just go replace player. We lose to the Rangers. Buffalo is a shootout win. Carolina, shootout win. So back-to-back shootout wins. Washington is a loss 5-3 in regulation, of course. Tampa's a 6-1 loss. And our last game of the season against Carolina is going to be probably a loss, right? Let's see. That's my guess. So, 4-0 win. Okay, not bad to get a shutout at the end of the season. So, we finish off the year 33, 38, and 11. So, not a great year, but it wasn't like as bad as I originally expected it to be. So, we almost got kind of like, we got points technically in 44 of our games this season. So, there is some positivity, but obviously, I think our goals for per game is still dead last in the league at this point. Let's see. I actually have to go out to the stats to take a look at this, which is kind of annoying and determine where we are and all that stuff. But let's see what we got here. Oh my goodness, my voice tried to die there. So let's see what we got in terms of the standings. So in terms of the entire league, we were a bottom 6 team in the league. We were not the worst team, so we did improve as the season went on a little bit, but not by much. So yeah, we finished 26th. The worst team was the Calgary Flames, apparently. In terms of goals for per game, we were in fact the worst offensive team in the league, worse than Pittsburgh and Washington, who also didn't score a lot. Calgary scored more than us even. So yeah, very rough season in terms of offense for this team. Hopefully it's better when the team's actually starting to develop. Goals against per game, we were not too bad defensively. We're obviously not super good defensively, but we are probably in the top 15 in the league, which is not too bad. So goals against, solid. Goals for, not so much. Power play percentage, we were 14%, which was better than a few teams, but still not great by any stretch. It was better than Washington, San Jose, St. Louis, and Pittsburgh. And then in terms of penalty kill percentage, 83.3%. Our penalty kill was relatively strong, actually. It was just outside of the top 10, I think, or it might have been number 10 in the league, but... So we had a good penalty kill. Goals against per game wise, it was kind of average. And then power play and goals for per game still need a lot of work, apparently. Maybe it's because of the coach. I honestly don't know. But we were 6-3-1 in our last 10 games to end the season. So maybe that will be a good sign of things to come for next year. But let's take a look at some player stats on our team. And we'll take a look also at the AHL, because the AHL should be a playoff team this season, likely. So Mäkinen on 57 points. Not bad. 26 goals and a -6. So a solid year for Mäkinen. His second best year of his career. So he's starting to get better, which is good. So I'm not too sure on how much term we want to commit to Mäkinen, but he does shoot the puck a ton for a playmaker. So I think he could definitely be one of these kind of hybrid production guys in terms of goal scoring and all that. So don't mind the stuff from Mäkinen. Hopefully he continues to develop. And I'm not too sure on how much money we're going to have to pay him, but he did win a Calder back a few years ago. Poitras on 53 points. He's a pending free agent. I don't think he's going to come back this offseason because obviously with the center jam, we do still have Eriksson coming up next year probably. Maybe even Leahy. So I think Poitras' time here probably should come to a close a bit. We have Bjorkstrand on 44 points, plus 13. So despite the team's lack of offense, he was able to keep a good plus-minus the entire season. So that's definitely a step up. It's more points than last year. Even though he's a sniper, he simulates more like a playmaker, which is kind of strange. And he also has developed quick draw. We didn't want to use him as a center. That's the only problem, because I want to use him as a right winger more because he's a goal scorer. But since he has quick draw now, maybe we do use him down the middle at some point. I'm just not too sure how that's going to work with the other guys, but this is what Bjorkstrand's looking like at this point. So there is that. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised he developed quick draw. Zikov on 35 points, 20 goals. To be honest, that's pretty damn solid for this free agent signing. Because he only played like 64 games before the season. Like 35 points and 20 goals with the power play time and the penalty kill time is decent for his ice time. So maybe we'll bring Zikov back, but I'm not too sure because there's going to be a lot of log jams of centers, but he could be a guy that competes for a fourth line job or a depth option job for our team. Lindros on 21 points in his rookie season, minus 20. So a tough time defensively for Lindros, but like I said, he's listed as a minor scoring forward, so that could have been why we didn't simulate that well. Maybe he's more suited as an AHL top 6 guy. I'm not too sure. Kaminsky, 16 points, only a minus 5. Not terrible in terms of plus minus, but he's also a minor scoring forward, so maybe he's also better suited as an AHLer, but not too sure yet. Maybe he'll get some development this year. Left wing side of things, we have Crane on 66 points to lead the team. Frondell had less points, and Crane was a plus 15 on this team. So Crane's easily becoming one of the better players on this roster. He has been pretty damn consistent. He's been getting better every single year. Even with this team not doing good this year, he was better than last year. So that's really positive. No short-handed goals for him or points, but he's definitely picking up more offense. He's a 30-goal scorer multiple times already. He's looking pretty good. And he's definitely living up to that contract we gave him already, so I like it. Frondell on 55 points. A bit of a down year for Anton Frondell, of course. Only the 8 goals as well. He's probably pretty tough on himself. I'm not too sure if he's mad because the team's not doing well. Let's see. Ice time is okay. Individual performance is the main thing that's dragging him down right now. So it's just a bit hard on himself. Like, he might be only an 84 now. But I think if he starts playing well again, he could definitely get his confidence back up there. So maybe we need to find somebody that could help Anton Frondell regain his form a bit, because obviously he's a little bit in the dumps right now. And we just gave him a massive contract extension kicking in next season. So obviously we want him to play good, because or else maybe we'd have to flip him before we even actually use him in that contract extension. I'd want him here until we win a Stanley Cup. So I got to find a way to get him to simulate better for sure. I don't know, because Crane could easily pass him in the depth chart soon too. Shala on 38 points. So Shala got off to a pretty bad start this year, but second half of the season looks like he was a lot better offensively, not so good defensively. But if we go to split stats and look at his stats here, early in the season definitely struggled. After we made the adjustments, 7 points in 14 games in December, 8 and 15 in January, 5 and 11 in February, 11 and 16 in March, and 4 and 7 in April. So yeah, definitely improved on the offensive side of things as the season went on. It's not bad, but obviously we might have overpaid him bringing him back. I'm not too sure. Oland on 21 points in his rookie year. Not bad. Not bad. He's probably the best of those AHL kind of guys because he's actually listed as a depth forward. But yeah, it's an okay season from him. So maybe he's an NHL guy for us again next season or a depth forward. Right wing side of things, we have Cook on 30 goals again and 50 points. So Cook hit 50 points, which is nice, and continues to show that he's a 30-goal scorer. Only one season without a 30-goal season, but he did do better than last year technically in terms of plus minus and points. So a better year for Cook, but obviously a little bit off since his 60-point season a few years ago. He's still listed as a third-line scoring forward, though, so that's where I'm thinking we might need some more right-wing depth, and we need more elite players in that top 6, because Cook could be just like a third-line scoring guy for us that gets power play time. So if we find somebody other than like just Bjorkstrand on that right side that's elite, that could score goals, that might be a better option for us going forward. But Colson on 21 points, and not really as great as I was hoping for. Mine's 23. But it is what it is. Some of your free agent signings can end up being really good. Some of them not so much. I was hoping he'd be better, but it is what it is. And Hemming played 5 games and had 4 points as a depth option. So Emil Hemming looked pretty good in a short span. He is also a minor scoring forward, though. so I doubt he's actually going to be an NHLer at any point. From a defensive standpoint, let's see what we got here. Hotnen on 57 points, 10 goals, 47 assists. Let's go. That's a big year for Ole Hotnen. More points than last year. Worse plus minus, but the team was worse technically. But yeah, Hotnen didn't even play a full season. He had more points in 6 less games. So Ole Hotnen is so far becoming a number 1 defenseman on this team, which is awesome. He is getting a ton of ice time, though, this year. 25 minutes a game. So this guy is looking good. As an OFD, he blocks a lot of shots, too. So he's starting to become maybe one of my favorite players on this team, other than Crane. Dobson on 47 points, minus 18. Rough year for Noah Dobson. Not too bad offensively, but the plus-minus is pretty rough. We are going to have to make a decision either at the draft, we ask him to waive his no movement clause, or we're going to have to trade him in terms of after the re-sign stage in free agency, or we trade him next year at the trade deadline instead. I'm not too sure when we want to capitalize on that, but if he doesn't want to waive that clause, that's going to suck kind of, but it might have to happen. Sal Malina, 11 points, minus 18. Sierra, 11 points, minus 3. Boyd, 9 points, minus 7. Pecker, no goals in 82 games, but minus 4 with 4 assists. And then Pratt, 9 games played with 3 points and 10 penalty minutes. Okay. Not terrible. But Pratt had his first 2 NHL goals. Love to see it. But it is unfortunate Pratt's not developing into what I was hoping he'd be, but it is what it is. From a not defensive standpoint, goaltending standpoint, Solovyov dropped off to a 909, but still a 909 on a team like this is pretty crazy. Considering the last few years, we've had better teams, and he's posted always below a 900 save percentage, but it actually says a 910 on here, which is kind of strange, but a better year for Solovyov, but not for the team. Hopefully next year, the team makes the playoffs and he plays good. And then Bjarnason on an 897. I don't think he's going to come back, and we could find a new backup goaltender. We probably have Medvinov that could come up next year as well, potentially. So there is our NHL team. Let's take a look at the stats around the league as well. And then we'll take a look at the AHL and see who was leading the AHL team and all that type of thing. So Nathan MacKinnon led the league in points with 133. In terms of goals, though, is Connor Bedard with 66. Goddamn. So Connor Bedard literally had as much goals as our leading point guy had points. So we're still a little bit away. But that's all right. We don't need to rush our rebuild too much. From a defensive standpoint, Cale Makar on 106 points, Pavel Mintyukov with 82, but Olli Houghton all the way down here in the top 10 and defensive points. Love to see it. Eventually, I think he could get up there for a potential Norris, but obviously a lot of good defensemen still in the league at this point. From a goaltending perspective, Kochekov on 46 wins. Wow. Most shutouts is going to be Edwin Dubnyk in Colorado. Interesting. 22-year-old goaltender. Best save percentage by a starter is Lucas Dostal with a 919 through 64 games. And you also have, what's his name? Abel Nevins with a 918 through 64 games. But way more losses. All right. Goals against per game is going to be Dostal. So, yeah, probably you're looking at Lucas Dostal to win the Vezina of the season for the Florida Panthers. Any goals from the goalies this year? Yes. Vadim Zhurenko scored a goal this season, and he had 2 assists. So shout out to Vadim Zhurenko of all goaltenders. Considering he's a backup goalie and he scored a goal, that's actually pretty impressive. Who did he score his goal against? I'm curious. Watch it be against us somehow. Nope, Washington. He actually had an assist that game too. So 2 of his 3 points came against the Caps in Game 13 of the season. So that's pretty cool. So shout out to Zhurenko. And most goalie assists, Mackenzie Blackwood with 6. Damn. Okay, good setup goaltender. Best rookie of the season in terms of points, Brian Ritchie in Utah at 42 points. There's a chance that he might not win the Calder, though, just because De Rossier, 40 points, better plus minus results in New York. All right. So there is all that. Let's go back to our NHL team and we'll take a look at our AHL roster and see how they've been simulating so far. But I think they definitely should be a playoff team based on some of the stats we were seeing before. So if we go to forwards here, go to AHL. Eriksson's on 75 points. What a year for Matthias Eriksson so far. What a year. And he's an 81 overall now. So yeah, he's definitely NHL bound next season. No question about it. Which is very, very exciting because that will definitely help us with that depth that we have a little bit of weakness with. And he could easily be a replacement if we let go Poitras. 52 points for Liam Prince. 75 overall is that top 6. He doesn't seem to be really developing that much. It's just kind of bad. He's kind of like Pratt, but on offense. Leahy on 49 points. Not as good as last year so far, but he could also be NHL banned soon too, which is nice. Offensive awareness is still really low, which is kind of questionable. Giordano, like I said, also is getting close. He's at 75, so a lot of guys still maybe making the NHL soon. Quincy Wallace is a 78, so very excited to see if those guys end up making it. But yeah, I think this AHL team is going to make the playoffs based on the plus-minus results and all that, likely. If we go to defense, let's see what we got here. Yanila had 50 points. Yanila is actually a 77, so Yanila almost could be a depth defenseman in the NHL, which is kind of neat. So shout out to Yanila. Franson on the 42. Latin, who we just drafted recently, at 19 years old. He was 18 when we drafted him, of course. So 38 points, 69 games, plus 11. And he's a 78 overall. So Kari Latin might have to compete for a defensive job next season as well. Like, we definitely have a lot of defensemen, so we probably have to think about getting rid of Dobson. George on 34. Looks like we got some good point production from the back end in the minors. And then our goaltending, Medvedov had an 899. I'm kind of surprised about that. But look at Nikulin. Look at Nikulin. 5 shutouts and a 917. So Nikulin is also very close to being a backup goalie. Both these guys could be backups potentially soon. So we might have ourselves a new backup goalie next season from our AHL team. So that's exciting as well. But definitely Matthias Eriksson, the star of Bridgeport at the moment. All right, so now that is all done, let's find out who ends up winning the Stanley Cup and seeing if our AHL team could win the Calder Cup this year. We'll actually focus on the AHL, I guess, for the time being. Because might as well, right? Might as well, because they should be a playoff team, right? Yeah, 42, 24, and 4. 7 and 3 in their last 10 games. Let's focus on the AHL team and see if they could win the Calder Cup. And obviously we'll find out where we're drafting in the NHL and all that stuff in this episode still too. But a little bit of a longer episode again. Let's go through these last 2 games. Providence and the Charlotte Checkers. Let's see if we can beat them. Providence is going to be another win, and Charlotte is a loss. So the AHL team finishes 43, 25, and 4. Eriksson likely still has the 70-plus points. I don't think he hit 80 points, right? 78 points. So he had a pretty strong last few games as well. So very, very strong year for Matthias Eriksson. I don't expect him to do much offensively in the NHL because he's a two-way forward, but I do hope that he can bring some good stuff to our NHL team next year. So now the question is, how good is Bridgeport going to do this season? They have to run into Hershey in the first round, which is not great because Hershey's usually always a great AHL team. Let's go through the first 2 games as this is a best of 5. Let's see. First game's an OT win. Second game's a 7-2 win. Can we sweep the Hershey Bears? Let's see. Yes, we can. So Bridgeport off to the next round, sweeping the Bears. That's a good way to start it off. As we head to round number 2, Anton Frondell's back. Let's just go best lines for the time being, because obviously the NHL doesn't matter at this stage. Let's continue to focus on Bridgeport, because obviously they're still at least going for something this year, not like our NHL team. And our second round matchup is against Providence. So we had 2 games against them near the end of the season. We won both of them. So this might be another series we could win. It's another series that's best of 5. So let's go through these first 2 games. See if we could take the first 2. We lose the first one. Lose the second one. Not great so far. Third one. Can we stay alive? Yes, we can. Okay, so we do force a game 4. Can we force a game 5? No, we cannot. We lose by 1 goal. So unfortunately, Bridgeport's season comes to an end a little bit earlier than expected again, just like last year. But unfortunately, they are going to be out in the first round. Let me take a look at the playoff stats for fun too. Wow, Wallace was doing really good. 8 points in 7 playoff games. Eriksson kind of fell off a bit. It was under point per game in the playoffs. Latin was really good though, 5 points. So some of the top prospects did good in the playoffs. Some of them dropped off a bit, but decent stats. Decent stats. What about goalies? Nikulin had an 885, so Nikulin got the starts in the playoffs. That's kind of interesting. Medvedov played only 10 minutes, so Nikulin has kind of jumped to Medvedov a bit. They're both 76 overalls. I'm kind of curious on who's actually going to make the NHL of those two guys. It's definitely going to be a war for them. And obviously we have some unsigned goalies that could definitely replace those guys next season. So with that done, and unfortunately the season coming to an end early, let's find out who ends up winning the Stanley Cup in 2033. Who is going to win the Stanley Cup? And is there going to be any former players on that team? Probably. Just knowing my luck. So the Stanley Cup champion 2033 is the Florida Panthers, and the Toronto Marlies are going to win the Calder Cup. So Florida winning the Stanley Cup. They win always cups in franchise mode, it seems like. Let's take a look at the awards now. So we'll go down to stats. Who did they beat in the Cup Finals? They beat the Colorado Avalanche. Florida and Colorado rematch in 96. Love to see it. Love to see it. All right. Who is on that Florida Panthers team as well? Just in case there's any former players that are in Florida now, which I honestly don't even know if there is. Let's see. Florida. Carter Verhaeghe still there, of course. Any former guys? Oliver Wahlstrom has won a Stanley Cup. I think he won a Stanley Cup already in the series, hasn't he? Yeah, he's a two-time Stanley Cup champion since leaving us. And somehow he jumped up to an 81 overall, and he's been producing on a good level now. Of course, 18 points in that playoff run. Last year he was on the Colorado team that won the Cup, so he swapped sides. That's kind of funny. And yeah, he's all of a sudden now a 30-point guy in the NHL. So Wahlstrom's starting to play good. That's not great. Anybody else that used to play with us? Does not look like it. No. And in terms of goaltending, Lucas Dostal, who won the Vezina likely, was the starter. So there is the Florida Panthers. Let's take a look at the rest of the awards for the season. So Florida, the Stanley Cup champions. It's been back and forth between them and Colorado the last 4 years. Dallas won the first President's Trophy that a team has since, I don't even know what year, 27, 28. Because Colorado's won 4 straight before that, so that's kind of insane. And Colorado's also been in 3 Cup finals in the last 4 seasons. So Colorado's insane. And they're definitely a tough team to contend with. Florida's obviously been to 2 Cup finals. So there's that. Art Ross going to Nathan MacKinnon for the 4th time in the last 5 years. So Colorado continuing to win awards. In terms of the next awards, the Hart went to Connor Bedard for the first time. Maybe in his career even for that matter. And then in terms of the Norris, Cale Makar, 5 straight years at least. Jesus, that's kind of crazy. Mikko Rantanen wins another Lady Byng. That's his 2nd consecutive. Phrase for Montreal wins the Calder. I don't remember which rookie that was, but that wasn't the guy that I was anticipating, I think. Verhaeghe wins the Conn Smythe. What else we got here? Dostal winning the Vezina. We have the Jennings also going to Dostal. Masterton going to Max Gannett. Seattle's head coach wins to Jack Adams. Selke going to Austin Matthews for the 2nd consecutive year. Nathan MacKinnon, another Lindsay, the 4th of the last 5 years. And Connor Bedard, the Maurice Richard for the 2nd time in the last 3 seasons. AHL, any crazy awards for our AHL team this year? Does not look like it, unfortunately. Nope. All right. So there is all that. Now comes the big question. Where are we going to be drafting this year? We don't have great odds of getting the 1st overall pick this year. We only do have 1 first-round pick as well this year, too. Yeah, we do not also have our 7th round pick. So we only have 1 first-rounder because we didn't obviously make any trades for first-rounders this year. So we got to hope that we could somehow win the lottery this year. I don't really care too much as long as we're getting somebody good. That's going to give us a better chance to become that team that we're destined to be at some point. So let's see. Where are we going to be drafting 2033? We are going to be drafting number 8. So we fall back from 7 to 8. LA jumps from 6 to 1. Vegas moved from 10 to 2. You could say the odds were stacked in their favor, maybe. Calgary goes to number 3 from 1. Okay. That kind of sucks. So number 8. I wonder if we're going to be able to get anything decent at number 8. Or are we going to have to try and move up? That's the thing that we might have to do. Let's see the retirements. I don't think we lost anybody because the only old guy is Dobson pretty much. But in terms of player retirements, Sam Reinhart retires with a Stanley Cup. He has won 4 Stanley Cups in his career, so potential Hall of Famer easily at that point. Zach Hyman also retires. Brock Nelson. So some pretty big names retiring. So Brock Nelson, we got a shout out to Brock Nelson. I almost forgot Of course, we got to shout out Brock. We got him a Stanley Cup when we traded him to Colorado. He played a few years there, and he won 2 Stanley Cups after leaving us. So, shout out to Brock. Fantastic career. Great playoff guy for us. Unfortunately, we couldn't get him a cup on Long Island, but at least he got a cup with the Colorado Avalanche. Aside from that, both Strome brothers retired the same year. That's actually kind of funny with almost identical points, Ryan and Dylan. So shout out to the Strome bros. But yeah, pretty big retirement group in terms of the amount of depth to it. About defensemen, let's see what we got here. Aaron Ekblad retires. Shea Theodore, Thomas Chabot. All right. Forsling retires with another Stanley Cup win as well. 4-time Stanley Cup winner for him. And obviously for Ekblad too. So Florida losing a lot. That might help us in terms of getting back into the playoff mix. From a goaltending perspective, best goalie to retire is UC Saros in Montreal. You also have Binnington, Linus Ullmark, and stuff like that. Okay. So there is the retirements for the season. Coach retirements, we did lose Veronica Krejcik, who I think was that goalie coach I hired not too long ago in the AHL. In terms of the NHL, we did lose Ruslana Sinitsin, which is another goalie coach. So I think we lost both of our goalie coaches, which seems to be the case every single year. So we got to replace those, of course. We weren't going to do draft interviews, or should we? Maybe we should, just because we're drafting 8th. Let's see what we got here. So this way we could actually already take a look at the draft class a bit too. So we're drafting 8th overall. Pierre Lapointe actually looks pretty damn solid. He is a left winger, though. I'll pin him already just because he looks kind of nice. Ruslan Vasilyev, also 2 years out. So these guys are probably going to be having solid overalls to start. This guy's a little bit lower, though. Cielo Fido actually looks really good, too. So Cielo Fido is also decent. He can play both sides. I do like that about Ross Cielo Fido. He actually might be what I want more than Lapointe. Because he looks like right now on paper that he's going to be better than Lapointe. And then he's also... yeah, he also can play both sides. So that's really, really useful. So I think we might look into him more. So we don't know anything about Nathan Cyphers, unfortunately. Alexander Semin, of course, is a defenseman. He's a left defender, though. We don't really need the left defenseman. We just need right defenders. Cole Newberry is a right winger. Probably could be just a normal top 6 or low elite. I honestly don't know. Brody LaBarbera looks not too bad. Looks like this draft is going to be okay. Like in terms of overall rating, some of these guys should be decent enough. Gregory Cassian. Okay. Then it starts to drop off a bit. There is a low elite potentially here with Aubrey, who's a right defenseman. We do need right defenders. He's 2 years out. We might have to take a reach. Let me interview him to make sure he's actually that good. So we need to find out about his strengths and weaknesses, and then we should be able to maybe find out his potential a little bit. So let's interview him, just because I'm curious on that. So let's see his strengths, his weaknesses, and maybe that will give us enough info. So his strength is his skating. His weakness is his physical. Not really a surprise. Aside from that, let's just ask him about maybe his personality. And that is going to be high standards of his team. Okay, so that's not great necessarily, considering our team hasn't been that good so far. But do we have that locked-in thing that he's actually a low elite? That's what I want to find out for sure if I can, which I don't have that locked in, but he looks like he could be pretty solid. He looks 2 years out, so he could be just a top 4, but we do need right defenders. So that's all of that. Let's see if there's any late round steals as well while we're at it. See if there's anybody I could pin here. Why did it go all the way down here? Let's see. So me and Malik, maybe right defenseman here for the second round. Kip McInnes, we'll pin him for sure. This guy may be decent. And Ulanov, he looks pretty low overall though. What about low elites guaranteed? We saw Luke Jang. He's a right defenseman. That's actually really nice. And he's supposed to go second round. And he's a low elite. Okay, so this is definitely what we're selecting second round. And I could maybe select that other guy first round, that forward. But Jang's definitely a second round player to take. There's also Dante Fox, who is a low elite. Maybe he's supposed to go late second round, but I think we definitely should take Luke Jang because we do need right defenders, and he would be AHL eligible. There's also Walker Osgood as a right defenseman too, so late round steal there. Definitely going to potentially take him in like round 6 because we don't have a 7th rounder. So there is some right defenders for us to draft this year, which is good. Leto Vavari might be low lead as well. He's actually listed as a gem, so he could be potentially. But I definitely think the players that we're definitely going to take in this year's drafted. I don't know why this thing doesn't even go back to the top when I'm sorting through pinned. Why does it keep going down? What the heck? That's strange. Anyways, we're definitely going to be taking, I feel like we should take Silafito. We should take Jang. Osgood. Maybe if we have a chance, we could get McInnes. But I think, obviously, Jang, since he's guaranteed, I'd take him over McInnes. Aubrey looks good, too. But Aubrey might not be a little elite. And we could easily find a way to get Fox in a later round as well. So I think, actually maybe not a later round. We might not be able to get him because he might be going second round. So for sure, though, Jang, Silafito, I think are picks that I want over like LaPointe, McInnes, Aubrey, those type of guys. So going to be an interesting draft. And hopefully we find ourselves some good players to fill out the roster a little bit more down the road. But final thing we got to take a look at is the contract situation and the progress reports. So contracts, who's up for renewal again this offseason? Makinen's the big one. And then Poitras as well. But obviously we're not going to bring back Poitras probably. But right now, Makinen doesn't want a super long-term deal. He wants a 5x5, which I think is pretty useful. I think it's actually not a bad trial run for him. He would be a UFA at the end of it. If we gave him 8 years, his contract interest goes down a bit. It doesn't go super high, his asking price. Only jumps up to a $6 million. So maybe we keep him on a 5-year deal. I'm not too sure, but we definitely will be able to afford him. I'm just not too sure on what term we want to give him. Aside from that, we have Boyd and Pecker, the defenders that are pending free agents. Boyd thinks he's worth $6.4 million already, which is kind of insane considering he's not even played that much. But maybe we could find a way to lock him up. But I feel like that's a bit of an expensive contract for him already. But if we go 8 years, he thinks he's worth $8 million. So maybe this guy's going to develop really well based on that. And then Pecker, who's already 23, only wants 2.975, which is not too bad, but a 3-year deal. If we go up to anything above that, then he starts to ask for top 4 money. So we could just give him a trial run, like we did with Salmelainen. But Colson probably won't come back. Zykov, I feel like could come back as an option. He was not too bad this year. $2 million. Doesn't have a lot of interest in the contract itself, but he has a lot of organizational interest. Has no interest in a 1-year deal, really, but if we did multiple years, or just did the 2 years, he'd probably accept something like around 2.5 or 2.4. So we could bring him back, but I'm not too sure. Because Eriksson, obviously, should be NHL bound next season. He only wants a 2-way deal right now, apparently, so he might be a little bit strange of a player, but I don't know if he's going to reach that elite potential, but want to get him into the NHL for sure next year, if we can. Wallace, I don't think is going to be NHL bound yet. He might be soon, but I don't think he is. So there isn't any huge UFAs, but the RFAs, there's going to be a lot of them to sign. And Leeson also, who got a lot of growth this season, is up to a 78, listed as a 4th liner. So yeah, Jakob Leeson had a really big season, I guess, in Russia. He's got 88 passing as well. So he might be able to help us out offensively a lot. So he's definitely going to be jumping into a 4th line role probably next season, which is exciting. So a lot of guys coming up from the minors again, which is awesome. And then from a goaltending perspective, this is going to be an interesting one. So we do have Bjarnason up for renewal. He's probably not going to come back. Nikulin was kind of close to being a backup, but he still wants a 2-way contract, so I think he could come back for the AHL. But we have 3 goalies that are all pending UFAs that are unsigned. And they're all younger and all pretty much on pace to be better. I would like to have Hainsey obviously down there because he's got elite potential, but we might have to prioritize one of these 2 fringe starters in Coyle or Smits. And then Nikulin might have to leave the team despite being pretty good in the minors. It's either that or basically Medvedov becomes our NHL backup next season, which is a bit of a weak goalie to have as a backup in the NHL. But he did play some NHL games a few years ago, and he was actually pretty good in it. So maybe we give him a chance. I don't really know. It's a big year for him to do that, though. So we have some goaltending decisions for sure, too. All right, final few things we got to take a look at is the progress reports. I just need to take a look at that for sure just to see who's been developing nicely for our team. It's another hour-long episode. I don't know why I have so much hour-long episodes lately, but in terms of growth, Eriksson got a lot of growth this year. A lot of natural growth, so yeah, he should definitely be NHL bound next year. Mäkinen also got some growth this year. A lot of natural for him, which is good to see. He's not growing statistically. Sierra actually got some good growth. He's actually fully listed now as a top 6 defenseman. Love to see that. Let's see what we got here. Wallace actually got a lot of natural growth too. So that's good. Yeah, we might have some young talent jumping up soon. That's good. Bjorkstrand was on natural as well. Love to see that. And that's good for the NHL. In the system, Giordano got a lot of growth as we saw. Leeson got a shit ton of growth as well. Nielakainen got a lot of growth. Kadri got a lot of growth as a medium 9. Leg got a lot of growth. That was Leg season. 21 goals. That's actually pretty damn solid for Joshua Leg. So shout out to Leg. Apple on to a 69 overall. Hainsey we saw got a lot of growth. Ritu got some good growth for a low 9. I'm liking the way that a lot of these prospects are growing at least. Like, that's at least a positive for this team. Like, even Leahy apparently is getting a lot of natural growth. I'm just wondering if he's going to make the NHL soon or not. His offensive awareness is still way too low. Like, I'm a little bit scared about that. So maybe in the offseason I'll try and focus on his offensive awareness. Because if we could get that above an 80, he'll probably be NHL bound. So I'm not too sure where guys like Kaminsky and Lindros fit in the team next year potentially. So that's going to be interesting. A lot of internal competition again, like I mentioned before. And then goaltending, of course, also, like, there's definitely a lot of competition there for being a backup goalie in the NHL or even just getting let go of and then more guys coming in. Like, it's definitely a revolving door, it seems like, at this point. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our New York Islanders franchise mode. So next episode, we're going to take it to the 2033 draft. Obviously, sucks to be in another offseason where we have to draft players and stuff like that already. But I think we're definitely starting to get that growth in the system a bit. And I think those guys that are in the system, like Giordano, all those type of guys, can eventually compete for roster spots. And I think that's going to make us stronger, obviously, in terms of our depth scoring, our defensive play. And I think this team obviously will be better probably next year. But then again, I said that last offseason and it didn't work out well. So anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.